The third module of our Yin Yoga teacher trainings is called Yin Yoga and Storytelling. And I want to take a few minutes to talk about why I think story and storytelling is so important. Modern physicist Brian Swimme says the universe is not a collection of objects, it's a communion of subjects. In other words, all that's unfolding in the universe is part of one story. Everything that exists is part of the same story. And storytelling and story helps us to place ourselves within that story. If we think of it from a Buddhist point of view and return to the teachings of the Heart Sutra, where the Buddha said that all things are empty of inherent reality. Nothing exists outside relationship. Nothing exists outside story. In order to understand who we are, we have to understand how we fit into the story that unfolds around us. And during this training, I'll tell stories, some classic stories, fairy tales and other things, from, you could say, 3 points of view. And the first are the youth stories. And these are the stories that we carry within us, or that we live within, or classic stories that we might tell each other. And these are the stories that invite us to triumph over adversity. They invite us to establish ourselves. They invite us to pull the sword from the stone. But at some point in our life, we find that those efforts and those struggles no longer satisfy us. As Joseph Campbell says, we get to the top of the ladder and we find out it's up against the wrong wall. The midlife stories invite us to face that place where we see this path I'm on, this story I'm telling myself or involved in has no heart and meaning for us. And that's the time we have to transform our life. When we have to change something, to let go of the stories that are empty and to find the ones that fulfill us. But at some point in our life, we find that no matter how we try to triumph over things, no matter how we try to transform things, we run into a story that we can't change. And that's the start of the elder stories. And the elder stories invite us to ask the question, what do you really do when you can't change that thing in your life that you so wish you could change? And those are the stories of transcendence, the elder stories. And these stories invite us also to look at how we can give back to the children and give back to the earth those things that we've learned in our life. So this teacher training asks us a few questions, and one is, am I listening deeply to my own stories, to the stories that the Yin practice is bringing? Am I listening deeply to the stories of those around me, the ones I love and the ones who are close to me? And am I listening deeply to the stories of my students? Or am I hearing them through my own story? And we ask the question, where am I stuck in my stories? Where are my students stuck? Am I stuck in a youth story that says, oh, I should be able to change everything, I should be able to be better? Or is it time for me to let go of those stories? And we ask the question, what story might I be carrying that I no longer need? What story might my students be carrying that they no longer need? And is there a way to let go of that story, or transform that story, or transcend that story? And what stories am I carrying that I want to nourish? Those stories that have true heart and meaning for me. And how do I begin to bring nourishment to those stories? And the teacher training also creates a circle that's open so that we can express our own stories, those stories that we've been holding that we now need to let go of. Or those stories that we've been holding but we've been afraid to embrace fully. And so we ask, how do we invite ourselves and our students to fully embrace those stories which will bring them nourishment and growth.